Hey guys, so I'm going to show you how I did my EGR delete on my 1994 Toyota pickup with the V6 3.0 engine. And this is my first time doing it, so be prepared to hear a lot of technical terms like thingy, thingamajig, that thing, etc. The first thing I started with was this little guy. He sits right in the front of the engine, right here. He's just held on by one 12 mil, so you're just going to take this off and you're going to unplug everything from this, or disconnect. So there's two hoses there, there's a hose there, and there's this big hose here. So you're going to disconnect all that, you're going to unbolt this bolt, and this guy will just come right off. Make sure that when you get this off, you put this 12 mil bolt back in, because this hole goes straight into the engine. So if you don't put it back in, you'll have leaks. When you get this guy off, you have these two hoses that you disconnected on this side. They are going to go into these two lines, which are going to go all the way over to these two. And when you disconnect these, you can cap these off. I also disconnected all the hoses in between from here and here. And I put caps on all of them just to make it look a little cleaner, but you don't have to. You can just disconnect it and put two caps on these, and then you can call it good. So once you get this guy off, you're done with that. And then we're gonna move on to the pair valve. You're gonna use two block plates for this guy. You're gonna put a block plate here after you disconnect this part and take it off with two 12 mils. And then you're gonna put another block off plate where this guy is. That's another two 12 mils. And there are two bolts here that are also holding this guy on. And just for reference, this hose from the guy we took off first is gonna go onto that. So you're just gonna take this off so you have a little less to work with. And you're also gonna have this sensor sticking out here. You're just gonna disconnect this for now, and I'll show you what to do with it later. But when you're taking this guy off, make sure that you disconnect this guy with a crescent wrench. It'll just pop off like that once you get it loose. Because when it's all connected, you can't get this thing out of the engine bay, because this thing has to slide out of the intake manifold. Because this part right here goes right where this block off plate is, and it sticks in the engine like so. And if it's all connected, it's just too big to fit out. So you're gonna unscrew this, take off the other part, and then you're gonna slide this guy all the way out. And you can see there's a bunch of grudge on this guy. So it's good we're getting rid of that. And so this pair valve will sit kind of like this. So once you get that disconnected and taken out, you are going to put two block off plates on. You're gonna put one up here, and you're gonna put one right here. These ones aren't too hard to reach. I think I just used a socket wrench and some extensions and like whatever I needed, but it wasn't too bad. I also mentioned that sensor that you'll have to disconnect. That sensor connects to this guy. I have it covered in tape right now to keep dirt and stuff out. But what you're gonna do with this is you're gonna put a resistor in here, because when you take the EGR stuff out, you're gonna get a check engine light. So you're gonna put a resistor in this thing to get rid of that check engine light, so the engine still thinks it's there. And then once you have a resistor in there, that check engine light should go away and you shouldn't have any problems. So for this plug sensor that you have to disconnect, you're gonna get two resistors in the kit. You are going to get a 10k ohm and 5.7k ohm resistor. What you're gonna do first is put the 10k ohm resistor in, and if the check engine light doesn't go away, it went away in about 30 miles from me. If that doesn't make it go away, then you're gonna put the 5.7k ohm resistor in. And the resistor looks something like this. It comes straight, but I bent the ends so you can put it in the plug. But you're gonna bend it like this, and you're just gonna stick it in the sensor, in the two prong holes that it has from the plug you undid. And you're just gonna stick it in there, Make sure it has a good snug fit. And then I wrapped it in electrical tape to keep dirt and water and grime out. This isn't a very good solution, so I would suggest wrapping it better, or if you have another solution, probably do that. This is kind of just temporary right now to see if the resistor made my check engine light go away, which it did. So I'll probably be tidying this plug up a little bit later, but yeah, that's how that works. Next, we have the EGR that you're going to take out. So for this one, you're going to use your third block off plate, and you're going to put it on this guy right here. You disconnect this with two 12 mils as well, just like the other block off plate parts. And then up here, you have some bolts that are 14 mils that you have to disconnect. So these are the two bolts holding the EGR in. And then these two bolts are for a bracket that holds a brake line. So you're going to have to take them out to get this whole thing out. But put the bolts that can go back in when you're done to keep that brake line intact and in place. And then you're gonna have another hose thing here that you're gonna disconnect. And then you also have this vacuum pipe line coming out the back that you're also gonna have to disconnect. So this guy will sit in the engine with this orientation. It'll actually sit pretty deep in. It'll sit like back here in this space. And then, so this big line, vacuum line that I've just mentioned, it's gonna connect to a hose right there. It's a metal pipe that's fixed. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna block off that with a big vacuum line cap. And then once you disconnect all these bolts, it should kind of just come out. I did have to finagle this a lot to get it out. You can also disconnect this with a crescent wrench like the paravalve, but I was able to get it out without doing that, and I was having a really hard time reaching this, so I just finagled its way out. I would suggest that if you can get this undone, you do. It will make your life easier. So those are the three things you really need to take out. That guy, this paravalve guy, and this EGR guy. These are all the hoses I took off. I took off a lot more than I needed to and just capped them off to try to give it a little bit of a cleaner look, but you don't have to. So the only things you have to cap off are these two that I showed you at the beginning. And then there's these two fixed lines here. They also have to cap off. And then you have the big vacuum line back here. And so it's just those 5 things that you have to cap off, not too much. And then you have 3 block off plates. You have that one and that one from the paravalve. And then you have one lower right there that is for the EGR, which was this part right here. So all you're gonna need for this is 12 mils and 14 mils and a crescent wrench that goes up to 1 inch, because these things are 1 inch. I also wanted to mention that for these bolts here, they do sit pretty low. They sit back here, and this is the black brake line bracket I was talking about. They sit pretty low, so I actually ended up taking part of my fender liner out. There's like a dress thing that hangs here, and then this metal piece here with these bolts. I took that out so I could get access up through the bottom a little bit easier, because going from the top is pretty hard and you have that brake line bracket in the way. I will admit that I did have to get pretty creative to reach some of these bolts, so if you have a problem getting to them, just try to think outside the box. I was using wood dowels and socket extensions and all sorts of stuff, so you might have to think out of the box for this one. Overall, this whole EGR delete was not too complicated. It was basically just undoing some bolts and taking stuff out and putting block plates on and vacuum line caps. But now that all that stuff is out, there's a lot more space here. And you can access your spark plugs way easier now. So that'll be definitely helpful in the future if I have to replace my spark plugs, or when I have to replace my spark plugs. So I suggest doing the EGR delete. It'll help your truck run cleaner, and honestly, this stuff is just limiting your engine. So I got my EGR Delete kit from LC Engineering. They're a pretty good company that makes lots of stuff for Toyotas and their engines and stuff. So that kit came with 4 1/8 vacuum line caps, 1 5/8 vacuum line cap, 2 resistors, a 10K ohm and a 5.7K ohm, and then the 3 block off plates and a handy dandy instruction sheet. So it was only 20 bucks. I looked at some other companies' kits and they're all about the same price. And LC Engineering is a good trusted brand, so I ended up going with them, and I could not be happier. I hope this video will help you guys like the YouTube videos I watched help me. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. More than happy to help. I was pretty new at this. This is my first time doing the EGR Delete, but it wasn't too hard. So good luck to you guys, and let me know how it goes for you if you decide to do it.